I recently visited a 1,000-year-old Native American petroglyph site that is still being used for spiritual purposes today. Even though the sacred symbols were carved ages ago, they still have an enduring indigenous teaching. If you want to learn more about this amazing place, I created a short ebook about the site that you can get it for free on our website when you sign up for our mailing list, indigenousearth.org. Also, you will get an alert when we release new episodes, good environmental news, upcoming workshops, and much more. So check it out. Do you feel drained by the endless negative news? Do you want a break from doom scrolling the news of ecological disasters, pollution of our waterways, and the killer record high temperatures? Then I have a great show for you. On this episode, I'll be talking to Taylor Cheíí Begay, who is going to bring a lot of joy, wisdom, and energy into our podcast. Taylor is going to introduce himself on his Navajo language and share about his super popular talk show, The Taylor Cheíí, where he uplifts and promotes Native American voices. We're going to find out the origin of his nickname Cheíí and if a hot dog is a sandwich. But more importantly, we will talk about rights of nature. Rights of nature's laws are passing all over the world, recognizing how indigenous cultures have always shared on how nature is not meant to be like a fridge that we just take things from, and that we humans must live in harmony with nature, giving as much as we're taking. So take a listen to my chat with Taylor Cheíí. All right, Taylor Cheíí Begay, how are you?
I'm doing just fine. What's up, Mr. Weaver Frank? What's good? What's new? What's different? Indigenous podcast. Let me hear you scream.
Yeah. I'm so happy, man. I'm so happy to be talking to you. You're such a sunshine, ray of hope, energy. It's amazing to be able to talk to you. And for those folks that do not know about you and your show, can you just tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I sure can. But before I go any further, Frank, is it all right if I introduce myself in my original language as I was taught by my elders?
Yes, please.
All right. So to follow Indigenous First Nations protocol, I will introduce myself in my original language. Ya Taylor Begay in Ishya. Aya Kiniat said the na yin shalom betahni. Bashin Asha Dasha Kapaha Dashanale. Says the cheat days aha de nasha. For those viewers or to everybody who do not speak the Navajo language or the Nebazad, I was merely introducing myself. I said, hello, my name is Taylor Begay. I belong to the 4 clan groups, and I reside in Red Mesa, Utah. Utah. That is me. So the Cheíí show. All right. We got to get this out of the way just because, everybody categorizes us in this same thing, which is all right. But the Cheíí show is not a podcast. It is a talk show. But more or less, the Cheíí show is a Q&A web series where I interview various Indigenous First Nations influencers, as well as our non-Indigenous allies and relatives, where we promote, where we uplift, and where we showcase awesome, influential individuals, organizations, events, you name it, we support it and we uplift, all in hopes to encourage, inspire, and to educate the Indigenous youth, because our youth are our leaders. They're our future as Indigenous people. So we want to give them the tools that they need, or that the tools they may need in the future to be successful in whatever fields they want to go into, whether that's the arts, whether that's in politics, whether that's in the ecosystem. We got a lot of Earth ambassadors, a lot of people fighting for our lands and our sacred homes and our plant relatives, animal relatives. So we want to give them the tools, the information, and good people to look up to be inspired, and to continue pushing themselves to be the best that they can. And of course, who else better to ask these questions than the individuals who are making the changes and the individuals who are opening the doors. So that's a little bit of the Cheíí show. You can catch me on all my social medias, and make sure you guys drop a like and follow.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember when you invited me to be part of your show, I thought it was a phenomenal experience. And you're such a charismatic host that I felt really at ease and I really enjoyed all the questions you had. And just seeing the engagement from the people that were watching, it's phenomenal what you're having there. And I can see your show going much further than you can imagine because you have a bright future ahead of you. And the reason that I was thinking to talk to you is because lately there's so much bad news going on. This stuff that is so sad, so depressing. And I was like, you know what? Let's bring some good news in. Let's share something with the world. Let's bring a smile. Let's bring a way for us to be more happy with what's going on. And I was thinking that you be the perfect person to bring because I always like your perspective. I always enjoy your conversations. And I was like, let's talk about good news that are happening in the world. So what do you think about that?
I'm down with it, brother. I mean, as soon as I got your message to come on to the show, to come onto your platform and to bring some smiles, hopefully some laughter, bringing that good medicine, I was more than happy. You know, I told you, I said win. That's all I needed to know was win so we can get things going. And yeah, it's bonkers what's going on in the news right now. But for the young people, to anybody listening, all I can tell you is to continue doing what you're already doing, which is staying focused on your own path and what you have for yourself, whether that's goals in your work, school, social life, what have you. If it's bringing you happiness, if it's making you smile, and if it's making you be the better person that you know you can be, keep doing it and keep going at it. Everything around you, it will dissipate or it'll move itself out of the way, you know, because that's what it is. It's just life. So continue doing what you're already doing. You're making a lot of people proud. You being who you are, you're making mom proud. You're making dad proud, grandma, grandpa, auntie, and uncle. You're making me proud. Yeah, like, you know, people are watching and people are in support of you. So keep doing what you got to do.
Yeah, those are beautiful words of encouragement. And let me ask you something. On your show is Cheíí. That's a word that means like an elder or a grandpa. What does that word mean?
So the word Che in Navajo or in Navajo translates to grandpa, old man. So how that name came about was I grew up in a very strict household. That means no phone, no social media, no being out past dark. You have to do your chores. You have to be up early, all these different things. And growing up, a lot of my peers, a lot of my classmates, they were wild. They were free. They could do whatever they want. But I always knew in the back of my mind, I had to be back. I have to go home before dark. I have stuff to do in the morning. And not only that, since I wasn't on social media, I didn't understand. I still don't understand the slang of young people. The vocabulary is very alien to me. So I've been told my mannerism, the way I talk, the way I think, the way I carry myself is that of an old man. So these young people, they would try to make fun of me. They would try to put me down by calling me Che or, you know, like call me an old man. And at first I was like, I don't like that. But it wasn't until some individuals would tell me, and I really had to look at the name for it myself. And they're like, well, if you look at it, old men are wise. They bring knowledge. They do all these different things. They're highly respected. So flip it on them and turn that negative into something positive. So I did that. I took that name and I made it something positive for myself. And I was, I'm Cheíí Begay. Glad you recognize. And then as time goes on, I wanted to create a platform to educate, encourage, and inspire young Indigenous people. And I was trying to think of a name because there's a lot that goes into a name. I mean, and the Indigenous Earth podcast, that has a story in it of itself. And you told that story on my show. So I wanted to create something that has a story. And a lot of what we do on the Chase show is just share stories, share knowledge, share experiences, and encourage and also to bring humor. Because sometimes we all have that grandpa, that old person in our family, in our lives that bring that humor, bring that smile to our face. So that's a little bit of the meaning behind the Cheíí Show. And I just said, that's what it's going to be. That's what we're going to do. We're going to educate, we're going to encourage, and we're going to inspire. And that's what we do. And that's the name of the Cheíí Show. And of course, there's so many other bits and pieces that go into the name, but that's just a tiny bit. That's just the highlights.
That is awesome. Yeah, it kind of jumped on me because when you were encouraging the youth, I was like, that's such old spirit kind of like message. Is a way of the traditions and being the people. They are there for you. We love and care. That's what it sounded like. And I was like, Shay, and I was like, I know that word. I think I know what it means. So thank you so much for sharing that story with you. All right, so let's talk about this good news that came out of Panama. And I'm going to read it here. It says, Panama brings in new law granting nature to right to exist. This is a law that just passed in Panama. And there's other countries in South America that also have that, such as Colombia and Chile, Mexico, and New Zealand. And this law talks about treating nature as something that is not to be taken. I think most of the time we look at nature like our fridge. We open the fridge, it's like what we have here, what I'm going to take. But it's not that. Nature is much more than that. Nature is what brings life, is what makes us be alive in this planet, is what brings us joy and happiness. And I love this new law that passed because it really is bringing awareness that, the environment that we have is just not for taken, and that they also have to be respected. So, Taylor, what do you think about that?
I think it's cool what's going on right now in Panama and other parts of different nations throughout the world. But it's kind of crazy at the same time, the fact that these governments still look at our relative as a resource, as something to benefit from, and only now when we are in this crisis, our governments and different people going, oh, maybe we should stop. Maybe we should protect this. And that's just the thinking of Indigenous peoples and the non-Indigenous world. The non-Indigenous world is so worried about progress, and they'll do anything in the name of progress, while as Indigenous peoples, we're more worried about how can we sustain, how can we be in harmony, and continue that balance. And that's what my initial thoughts were about these articles and these new laws being passed, was the fact that these governments and these different entities are so behind in Indigenous ways of thinking that only now are they finally catching up to us and finally recognizing the message and everything that Indigenous people stand for and say and tell. And just as long as it's getting done and as the work is finally taking place, better. It also made me think, better late than never. Better late than never.
Yeah, and I'm glad that the Indigenous people are also getting credit for it, because I know that in California, for example, they had the Indigenous people that had traditions of burning the forest to kind of keep up with the growth. And when the Indigenous people move into the area, they're like, hey, we're gonna stop the burning. We're gonna keep everything not burned, and that created a lot of kindle in the forest. So then the forest, when they come in, they're just intense because there's so much wood in the fire, and damaging houses, damaging communities. And now they're like, wait a minute, there was a way to do this that was better for the environment than Indigenous people were practicing for a long time. And let's go ahead and bring them in and then bring those practices. So not only we're looking to those practices, but we also are giving credit to where it belongs.
Yes, sir. And not only that, something that I thought was pretty cool in that article and in that research was the state of California not only did that, but the different bands that practice that, they also continue practicing their culture and their original ways in doing things. Because I was skimming over an article, and they were talking about how the old people would do different protocols right after burning, and then they would collect the material that they need for their baskets, what they wear, and their food even. And then that just built on top of that. And then I just couldn't help but stand back and say, there's something, even just how the realization of how everything we do as Indigenous peoples is connected. There's a reasoning behind it. It's not just because, it's because it serves a purpose.
Yes, it is everything is part of something greater, and you're not just having a smaller part instead of like looking into the bigger extent. And these rights of nature, they're amazing. You know, here in Orlando, we do have the Right to Clean Water initiative. This was something that I participated, I kind of helped promote, and we were able to pass the law to have the rivers to have their rights. So that way, when pollution happen, we can kind of go back and be like, hey, we are going to stop this. The river is going to sue your pollution. And to your point, Taylor, this is, thinking that indigenous people have for a long time, and finally they're becoming law. So it's really cool. And I think it's a great start. And I hope to see more of this law all over the world. And know that, there's a lot of bad things happening, but we also have good things and good initiative, good people that are going around and trying to make this world a better place.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
And I remember when I was in your show, you kind of had like a really funny question for me. I think you asked me if a hot dog was a sandwich. What was it you said?
So it's, the hot topic of the Chase show is a hot dog a sandwich. And the reasoning behind that is because in talking about Indigenous topics, there's so much. It's so heavy. There's a lot to carry with it. And sometimes you talk about the history, you talk about people's traumas, and then you're kind of just stuck in that negative energy, or you're just kind of stuck in that energy, whatever it may be. And I was trying to figure out how do we tap into that, but at the same time balance it out with some humor, balance it out with some smiles, balance it out with making it a memory. And I remember I was scrolling through social media and I saw it on a TikTok. Actually, they're like, "Is a hot dog a sandwich?" And I had to think back to myself. I was like, "Is it a sandwich? Is it a sandwich? Yeah, it's a sandwich. No, it can't be a sandwich." And just going back and forth with myself. And then when creating the Chase show, I wanted to bring that element of kind of surprise, but again, that humor, just to change things up, just to bring back those smiles, bring back that good energy, that good medicine. And that's what we continue to do. I mean, we've had over 127 successful episodes, and each guest have their own answer for whether a hot dog is or is not a sandwich. And people still message me to this day telling me it is a sandwich, or it's not a sandwich, or I don't know, maybe it's a taco, or it's just rolled bologna. It's not so much is it or is it not a sandwich, it's the memories that it makes. Like I said, we've had people, like families, message us. They're like, we sat in our kitchen for 2 hours discussing over whether a hot dog is or is not a sandwich. And my favorite one has to be when former Subway employees got in on the conversation and they're like, "Is it a sandwich? No, it can't be a sandwich." And they were just going back and forth. And I was like, oh, snap. Professional sandwich makers had to think about if a hot dog or is not a hot dog a sandwich. And that's the moments I live for. That's my favorite part about my work and the show, is just having people think like that. And then not only that, we've also had people kind of like, I've never thought about it in that way. So that's the hot topic of the Chase show. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yeah, and on that spirit, I want to ask you a question. I'm gonna bring the fun for you. I was like, if you had a song that would play every time you entered a room, Like you cannot control. You enter a room, the song like plays for 30 seconds. What song would it be?
A song that I would want to be my grand entrance song for 30 seconds every time I enter a room. Ooh, that's kind of hard. That's there's a handful of songs. If it's let's see, I'm trying to think. If I'm trying to be like seductive, trying to be affectionate, have people turn heads, it would have to be Return of the Mac. Every time I walk into the room, the Return of the Mac. Yeah, that would be one of the songs if I was trying to be seductive, trying to look cool in the room. If I had another choice, it would have to be, let's see. And it'd probably have to be I'm the Real Slim Shady by Eminem, just because it's that like, who's this guy? And then just to have that swagger with it, that cool sway with it.
Yeah.
But if I had to go country, let's see, I know there's a lot of cowboys who watch the show. They're always telling me some country, and I guess my country song would have to be there's a song. It's like Bad News. I mean, I can't remember who composed it, that's if I'm feeling kind of Western, kind of feeling it. Cowboy boots on, cowboy hat. I won't wear cowboy boots or hat because I'm an Indian. But if I was feeling Western, that'd be the song. And of course, I got other songs in mind if I were to make an entrance.
Those are really good ones. I like the Eminem one. And to get the spirit of the Cheíí in the room before we head out, in your opinion, what can young people do to help protect the planet? Like, what would you say that is one single step, something maybe they can do at home to just leave the world a little bit better than they found?
Continue cleaning up after yourself. It's one thing to start, and it's one thing to clean up after somebody else. It's another if you continue doing it, if it's always on repetition, if you're always picking up after yourself or others, because what's it called? Continue involvement. Continue being involved. Because like you get these numbers in the grand scheme of things, you can start your own program and you can have like 1,000 people on the first day. What's going to happen the next round? 900, and it dwindles on. If you can continue to have 1,000 people or even 5 people constantly every time, that makes a difference. That really does. So being continuous and having to participate continuously.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's that compound effect, right? Even if you do 1% every day, but if you do it every day, you're gonna go further than the person that does 100 and doesn't do anything the following days. So
exactly.
Beautiful advice. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast. I really appreciate it. I'm going to put the links for your show. I know you have some really exciting guests coming up. And I want to congratulate you for all the work you're doing. You're doing something amazing, something unique, and very engaging that, people love it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Frank, Mr. Weaver, for having me showcase and hopefully spread a little humor, some good medicine on your platform, Indigenous Earth. Shout outs to the Indigenous Earth podcast. You guys go follow Mr. Weaver on all platforms. Go watch his episode where he was on my show. Great memories, good times, good conversation on the Cheíí Show. And you guys go like up all his content, share it up, get the word out, spread the word around. Like how you do with that mustard on the bread when you're making that sandwich. Just gotta spread it out. Or when you got that little kiss by your honey, but you don't want your mom to see it, so you gotta spread out that lipstick. Spread it out, spread the love, spread the encouragement. That's what you gotta do here on the platforms.
Yep, spread the love.
Spread the love.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah.